But yeah.
Smile, you're lying.
Smile, you're alive.
Yeah, why Julie so early?
I can be an embarrassment all by myself. I don't need your help.
Not true. That is a false.
Not at my house. Well, it depends on who's counting money.
He said they got all their state and federal permits.
Yeah, we got rid of some stuff, but I still got a garage.
At least you can make crap know when we're not happy.
Well, anything with it until later, I'm sure.
Just go in there.
He's almost 100% guaranteed that sale's going through. So. I mean, so, anyway.
Getting ready.
Some papers. Everybody does.
Oh,
Did you notice ever since Rich got elected, things have calmed down
I know.
considerably?
It is.
Yeah.
Sure is.
He must have thrown some oil on the water or something. Hey, I'll tell you, Regina was.
I'd like to call the Ferrisburg City Council meeting to order tonight on May 7, 2018 at 7 p.m. Roll call, please.
Mayor Hop,
Here.
Councilmember Kennedy, Councilmember DeWitt,
Here.
Councilmember Twa,
Here.
Councilmember O'Donnell,
Here.
Councilmember Carlson,
Here.
Councilmember Blees.
present.
At this time, we'll stand for the invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Dear Heavenly Father, we are meeting here tonight to conduct matters of business. Guide our hearts and our minds in the spirit of fairness, right thought, and speech. Impart your supreme wisdom upon our activities so that our affairs may reach a successful conclusion. Thank you for being a source of our guidance today. Please continue to protect our men and women in uniform and keep them safe from harm. We pray this in your holy name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation. At this time on the agenda is time for public comments. If any citizen, excuse me. This time on the agenda is for any citizen to direct brief comments or questions to City Council. Time for public comments will be given when an agenda item is discussed. If you have a comment or question, please raise your hand to be recognized by the mayor. And after being recognized by the mayor, please stand, give your name and address. For the record, proceed with your comment or question. Please limit your comments for 3 minutes. Any public comments? Okay. You want to come up to the podium, please?
Hello, everyone. My name is Tiffany Bowman, and I'm the new Transportation Director for Harbor Transit. And I just wanted to take the time to introduce myself today, say thank you for your support. I appreciate your approval of the resolution for the millage. And thank you for continuing to be supportive for transit for the citizens of the city of Ferrisburg. And just say hello. And if you ever have any questions or have about the bus service or have any needs, just let me know. But thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Jerry Mabrito, and we live at 17434 Hiawatha Drive. And we've been there for about 4 years now, and I just wanted to say thank you for doing such a good job of taking care of our city. We love the bike paths and the running paths in the area, and we are big users of those facilities. And as someone who runs even in the crazy winter, I certainly appreciate the porta-johns that are placed at certain facilities. So thank you for providing those things for us and making Ferrisburg a great place to live and stay healthy.
Okay, hearing none, we'll move forward. Item number 6, consideration of approval of a consent agenda. A, approve the April 16, 2018 City Council meeting minutes as printed. B, adopt a resolution declaring June 11 through the 15th, 2018 Muskegon Area Smart Commute Week. And C, approve the mayor's proclamation declaring May 19 to the 25th, 2018 as a National Safe Boating Week.
So moved.
Support.
Okay, motion of support. All those in favor stating aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Moving on to 7A, new business. Discussion, take action if appropriate to approve the memorandum of understanding between the City of Grand Haven's Neighborhood Housing Services and the City of Ferrisburg to adopt a resolution authorizing the City of Grand Haven's Neighborhood Housing Services to be the lead applicant in submitting a grant request to the Michigan State House Developmental Authority, MSHDA, and to authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign all necessary documents. Do you want to come up and speak at this time?
Hello, thanks for having me again. I'm Rhonda Klein from the City of Grand Haven Neighborhood Housing Services, and I just came tonight to be here, be available to give additional information or answer any questions that anyone has. I'm sure you remember that our original MOU was for 2 years, and we are about halfway through our second year. So I'm just following up with all of the communities to talk about a new agreement going forward starting at year 3. I will say that we had a meeting with the city leaders before I came to the boards, and I think kind of the general agreement, and Craig can correct me if I'm wrong, was that I think everyone would prefer to see a 1-year agreement, doing 1 year at a time. You'll see in the proposal, originally we talked about doing 3-year agreements, but we're open to any kind of agreement. We're open to changes, suggestions, that sort of thing. So go ahead. Did you? Oh.
I think the biggest change from the original agreement and this agreement was, in the original agreement, there was some grant funding available to the communities. That grant funding is no longer available. So that's why there's an increase in each community's contribution for the next year.
Yeah, and if you remember our budget ask, originally it's $60,000 now. It was $60,000 2 years ago. But the Community Foundation, because they support, our department, they agreed to provide half of that for the first year and half of that for the second year. So then when we came to you, that was actually cut in half due to their contributions. So we were only asking for a combined 30 from the communities. And so now that their contribution their 2-year commitment is over, then we're asking for the full 60 now.
With when you gathered during that meeting that a 1-year contract would be more feasible for the communities versus a 3-year?
Right, and the thought would be that grants can be looked at and try to obtain some grant funding for the next couple of years. To
Following this?
Give us a little time to get some grant funding,
Okay.
See if there's any available.
And I know we've talked about some of the funding challenges, and we talked about like the current grant that we get for our housing education program. A few years ago, the amount of money that we were able to bill per client, that's cut in about a third now. We used to be able to get about $750 per client for an average of 3 appointments. Now we get more like $250. So that's a big change. That's one of our challenges. Also, the MISHDA funds that were in the single-family homeownership division that are no longer there. With the tax reform bill, the current one for 2018, there won't be really any new funds put into federal housing programs, so that continues to be a challenge for us. But I will say some of the actions that we've taken, we are still talking with the county. We would like to see Ottawa County as a whole do a contribution. The $60,000 proposal doesn't have the county putting in any money. We've done an ask. With Pat McGinnis, we've worked with some of the Ottawa County staff, and we asked. Their most recent answer was again no, but we are, I've gone back to some of the staff and I'm asking for more information, and Pat and I are going to go back with kind of a rebuttal to that and, you know, see what amount of money they would be willing to contribute, since they said no to our original amount. And just so you're aware, you know, we do continue to look for funding because there's not a lot in the public funding areas. We do a lot of research in the private funding areas. The most recent information that was available to us, there were 99 different grant opportunities, and when we narrowed that down to the ones that fit with what we do, that left us with 3. And so of those 3, we are, you know, still researching whether it would be a good thing for us to apply for. But one of the other things that we run into with the private foundations is they might give us funds for programs, but we don't get the staff money to support those programs because they don't have admin money or developer fee type stuff along with them. So I am a full-time staff member, and then I have 2 part-time staff people. Our housing counselor, she works 16 hours a week, and then our admin person works 20 hours a week. Yes. Yep.
Am I correct that the city of Grand Haven and Grand Haven Township have approved this MOU?
Grand Haven Township hasn't approved it yet. They wanted to wait until their budget process, which isn't until like August. Okay. So, but the city of Grand Haven has. Yes.
Greg, maybe you can answer this question. On the cover letter we got from Craig, we paid $762 for the period July 1, 2016 to June 30, 2017. As I understand, we were paying $1,800 a year, correct?
$1,800 is not to exceed. It was dependent on the number of clients that got served in the city of Ferrisburg.
So they actually reduced our payment from $1,800 to $762?
Yes.
That's correct.
So that was our co-pay for the previous year, fiscal year?
Yes, and that was also in part because we were able to reduce our ask. Our proposed, what we thought we would need was 30. We were able to reduce that down to 23,000. So that was also why there was a reduction. This year, our anticipated, the agreed upon was again not to exceed 1,800 out of a shortfall of 30. Right now, my current budget looks like we're going to be needing. We're going to have a shortfall of about 17,000. So.
Request instead of the 1,800 we've done the last 2 years, you're asking for 2,400 for this current fiscal year.
Yes.
I see.
Not the current year, I'm sorry, not the current fiscal year, the next fiscal year.
For 17 or 18, 19?
Yes.
Okay. I saw on our little chart here that we had 4 participants in Ferrisburg.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
2 were foreclosure prevention, homeowner education, and financial empowerment. What is that?
That's where a client can come in and just, they get financial education services, credit
Like
repair,
budgeting and that kind of thing?
Yep.
Okay. So we had 1 homeowner repair in
Yes.
the city,
Mhm.
as I'm reading this.
That was a total rehab job of, I think, almost $5,200.
Okay. Thank you.
You're working closely with the Community Action Agency also in Ottawa County then?
The Community Action Agency. we don't work closely with them. Some of what, you know, I always want to say the Community Action House is who does a lot of what we do. We don't provide similar services
Okay.
as a Community Action Agency.
Okay. So other areas of needs within for our residents?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Your Honor. Craig, this isn't a hardship on the budget if we go from 1,800 to 2,400 for the fiscal year?
Should not be an issue.
Okay. I was a big supporter of this in the past to get this program up and going 3-4 years ago. Craig and I worked on this for, I don't know how many hours. The problem as I see it is we've lost the state and federal funding. But, so now, at what level do we want to fund it? The question I have is can we make a motion to approve this contingent on the other municipalities approving it?
Done.
Okay, thank you.
Any other further questions?
Yeah, I just had a question. So the max is 2,400 that we would be responsible for. How many people is that up to that you would be able to serve with that amount?
However many come to us. We don't have a limit on
Oh,
the
okay.
number of people that we serve.
Well,
Okay.
basically,
Well, I
it's a
mean-
first come, first served service, correct? When the money's gone, it's
Are you
gone?
referring to the homeowner repair
No,
assistance
just in
that we
general.
provide? Just in general?
Yeah, just in general, like what Mike was saying earlier, like we budgeted 1,800 and then it was only 762 because you only saw 4 residents. So it's based on how many, so if there's only 2 residents, it'd only be $300 a year? Or that doesn't matter?
No, well, we changed it because when we did, with the current agreement, we kind of get an artificial cap. So the way we want to change it would be not to exceed the total budget shortfall of $60,000. And we want to, instead of using numbers that we don't know yet, like numbers for next year, for 18-19, we want to base the percentage off the previous calendar year numbers. So these numbers that you're looking at right now would be from calendar year 17. So that would set your percentage. And then at
4%. Ours is set at like 4%.
yes,
But if we go under that, do we get a
It'll be-
credit back or?
it'll be 4% of whatever our budget shortfall is, not to exceed $60,000. So if my
Okay.
budget shortfall only comes in at 40, it would be 4%. If it comes in at 20, it would still be 4%. Well, if you say in your agreement that your maximum is 2,400, then no.
We would be liable for 4% of 60,000 if that was the budget overage. Well, now we're at 2,400 plus 4%.
Well,
Am I missing something in
no,
that
you're not.
translation there?
No, because the MOU, if that's the way, I mean, you could be if we don't word it correctly, but the current ones put the current MOU puts a cap on the amount, and so would this. It would be a percentage of the budget shortfall not to exceed 2,400 is how your agreement would read.
That, you're comfortable with that, Craig?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Would you like a motion, Your Honor? Your Honor, I would make a motion that we pass, and where'd it go? To approve memorandum of understanding between the city, all the cities and City of Ferrisburg at spending amount of 2,400, contingent upon approval of all the other communities.
Support.
Motion and support. Okay, all those in favor stating aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving down to 7B, discussion take action if appropriate to approve a bid from Asphalt Paving Incorporated for $177,100 for bike path repairs. Craig, you had some information in our packet from staff that you talked with DPW director.
Correct.
Okay, and he's able to assist with some of this?
Yeah, we think we can do this project without having an engineer involved. We did speak to the engineer. He indicated that if there was an issue, he'd be willing to help us out. But it's a pretty straightforward project. We're proposing just to remill and repave the existing bike paths. We went off a bid. We were hoping to get 3 paths done in the city: West Spring Lake Road, 3rd Street, 174th Avenue, and the walking path in Coast Guard Park. We were expecting on cost estimates to be about $18 a foot. The bid came in closer to $22 a lineal foot. And so out of the bike path money that was bonded for a couple of years back, there's about a little over $200,000 left for that bond money. So to do the projects and not cost the city really anything out of the general fund, we're looking at proposing to just do the West Spring Lake Road project and the walking path in Coast Guard Park. The 3rd Street, 174th Avenue, there's a couple spots that are in kind of a need of repair. DPW indicated that they'd be willing to cut those out and take care of them on their own. So what we're proposing is that we would do the West Spring Lake Road bike path, the walking path in Coast Guard Park, and with the traffic control, it comes to the $177,100, and the Public Works Department would oversee the project.
We're putting this out for bids late in the season. Do you think it would be feasible to put it off till next November, bid it for spring of 19? I mean, do you think there could be a cost savings there? Because I'm reading this, we put this out, the time we put it out, almost all the contractors had their work scheduled for the year, I'm assuming.
The goal was to have it out for bid earlier, like in February or March. It just didn't happen, and then it got to the busy season when the bids went out. I'm not sure if that's why we only got 1 bidder on the project. Talking to the engineer, he indicated that he wasn't too surprised that only 1 bidder came in based on the type of the project. Whether you go out for bid next year and get better pricing, I don't know the answer to that. Depends on material and the work lined up for next year in the economy.
Well, my thought being is we had that, I can't remember the name of it, that did the bike path on 168. They came in at a reasonable price, but I know one of the guys that works here, and they're backed up this year, obviously. McCormick Sand. Yeah. So my thought being, but you know, cost of materials may go up too. We don't know that. But because we got a late start on this and we only have 1 bidder, would it behoove us to sit on this for a year and rebid it, like put it out for bids in November? Then they can plan on it first thing next spring. You know, I mean, there's nothing real critical here that there's.
No, it's not a critical issue. It's just something, a project we want to get done, but it's nothing urgent.
I've got a question. Is current condition of the bike paths put us in a liable state? I mean, is any of the repairs need to be done at this point, or is it safe to put it off until next year?
I think it'd be safe to put it off to next year. If there's tripping hazards out there, we address them as we see them.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, I guess what I'm looking for is your advice. You know, obviously this bid came in at $22 a running foot as opposed to 18. Obviously he jacked the price up because he's busy, in my mind. You know, I mean, these engineers, they say $18 a running foot. They're pretty close normally. You know what I'm saying? So I guess I'm asking your advice. Should we table this till next spring and rebid it, or do you want to go forward?
There's no urgency to do it this year. If we can get a different bidder to come in, it might lower the price down a little bit. I'm not sure how much. API does most of the paving in this area anyway, so my guess if we have a different contractor, API is going to be doing the paving for the project anyway. I wouldn't see a big savings to be able to do another project or another bike path, no.
I walk the bike paths. Barry and I both, we walk them. I agree it's not an urgent thing, but there are a couple spots that could be, the roots are coming up on some of those places. And you just never know when, you know, it's gonna happen, or the tree's gonna really bump that thing up. There's one in particular on West Spring Lake Road by Williams. Before you get to Williams, it's kind of bad there.
Well, I guess my thought would be, I just threw that out there thinking, you know, we're $4 running foot higher than estimated. We want to do it now and get it done, or I don't have strong feelings either way. I just want to throw that out there and see if we
Have it on the schedule to do it this year?
Schedule to be done last year.
Yeah, say we're already
But,
a
you
year
know,
behind.
it's not,
right here.
it's something that's pressing that needs to be done. It's just a project we want to do, and there's the money in there from the bond left over, and we want to use it for bike paths, so.
I'll make a motion that we go ahead and accept this bid of 177-1.
Yeah, I just hate to have, you know, price goes up. Hopefully the price won't go up next year, but what if it does? So I guess that's always a chance you take.
I've never seen them go down. Roads.
Well, if there's 3 or 4 bidders, it's a little different, but still, yeah, I don't know.
go talk to him, you know, we came out pretty good when they redid for planks. We talked to him, got a street pretty reasonable.
Done by API.
Yeah. Same people?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think most of the paving's done in there already. Yeah.
I'm gonna call for the vote.
No, I have a question.
Yes.
Craig, this monies that are available for this repair are coming out of funding that we received in the past from other bike path project.
Years back, the city went out for a bond to do the North Shore Road bike path and the Van Widener bike path. And it was, the millage question was for those bike paths, and it's for maintenance on the other bike paths. So the bond was for $1.2 million. We spent about $1 million so far, so we have about $200,000 left of that money.
Aye.
Motion carries. Moving down to 7C. Discussion, take action, if appropriate, to adopt a resolution waiving fees associated with the late and not filed property transferred affidavits, PTAs. Craig, you could assist with this.
So every time there's a property transfer in the city, the party that's transferring the property is required to send a property transfer affidavit into the city. Typically, we get most of these. On occasion, we do not get one. The state has gone through and done an audit. They'll be come back and do an audit in another year or two. One of the things they're going to be looking at, and when they come and do an audit again, is whether we're collecting fees when people don't turn their property transfer affidavit in. So the local unit has the option of waiving the fee or keeping the fee that's allowed by state at $5 a day up to a maximum of $200. The city really hasn't gone after these PTAs that haven't come in. We're going to have to start doing that a little bit more diligently with the state coming in and going to do that audit. So we can do the property transfer affidavit, and $5 a day or $200 isn't a lot of money. It does bring a little hammer over their head if they don't turn it in. We send them a letter and they say they're not going to turn it in. The city really has no recourse, but if they don't turn it in, at least we can levy a fine on them. So it's not the money issue, it's just something that gives a little push to get the PTA into the city. Deb did some research on it. The city of Grand Haven does not charge a fee, Spring Lake Township does.
State comes in and does an audit, what's the ramifications if these things aren't taken care of?
City or not.
Can they find the city, Debbie?
Yeah, you have to pass your AMAR review.
Okay,
Assessors do. This
So
is
we-
part of their AMAR review.
so we need to address this in a manner that they're going to get done, correct?
Right, we got, either waive a fee or not waive the fee. We're gonna go after the PTAs no matter what. It's just we're gonna have a fee associated with those that are not turned in on a timely manner. Problem. Most property transfer affidavit or property transfers take place on a title company, and they're aware of the paperwork that local units are required to have. Just on occasion, one doesn't get here, and we got to go after the owner and say, "Hey, we need that PTA."
You're basically asking if we don't, if we waive the fee and get the paperwork done, that's okay.
Right.
Yeah.
But if we ask for the PTA and they don't give it to us, we have no recourse.
What happens when I sell Rebecca my house on one contract?
That's a property.
The title company is not involved until it's paid for, correct?
Well, typically, there's some paperwork, a land contract deed that's recorded. We get a copy of that, and it's up to the property owner, the buyer, to send in the PTA.
So I guess my question would be, how many times does that happen as opposed to going through a title company? Title companies are aware of this and realtors are, so they're gonna take care of it.
99% of them go through the title company, I would think.
Okay, so what's staff's recommendation here?
To keep the fee.
Okay.
Don't adopt a resolution.
I'll make a motion to adopt a resolution waiving fees associated, to not waive the fees, to keep the fees associated with property transfer affidavits.
Support.
Motion support. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, signify.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Moving down to 7D, work session, City Hall roof.
Oh, baby. Where's the big dog? Oh, I'm afraid to even open it.
Yes, okay. Craig, you provided all of us with the binder, with the pictures and all of that. Can you walk us through it? Yes.
So the study we had done by a roofing consultant, I came back and that was in your binder, and a lot of good material in there, a lot of good information. He had broken it down into areas of the roof that are what they call cost of failure rate, 0 being the worst and 5 being it will have some life left into it. He indicated that areas of the roof that are in need of repair is about $111,000, and so and these are the areas of the roof that he indicates that are in need of repair. They're highlighted in yellow. This is where you come in after 5 o'clock. This is the hall where my office is, right around in there. This is the north entrance into the building, and this is the middle section in the east wing. There was a leak there earlier this year when we had the ice storm back in April. For some reason, it leaked in there. That's the first time it's ever leaked in that area. To indicate to repair all the roofs, we're looking at about $514,000. Again, the yellow is the areas that are the most dire need of repair. The purple would be the ones that need repair in 3 to 5 years, and the green are in have a little longer life left in them. And broken down by color, the yellow is the ones that need repair. The pink ones are probably 3 to 5 years out, and then the green are areas that need to be addressed sometime in the near after that. If the city was going to move forward with what he proposes, doing the yellow sections in there that are at a 0 life expectancy, adding in the next couple of rows in there that 3 to 5, that puts us about $188,000 to do those repairs. And those would be these sections here. Again, the yellow, the ones that are most dire need of repair, up there in the northwest corner. And this is the gym area.
Photos definitely showed abnormal growth up there of vegetation and
A lot of
that grow over
vegetation.
the years. Yes.
Going through his report a little bit, he had broken down by repairs and replace range, indicated the sections of the roof. Repairs, he indicated it was about $41,000, and the price range to repair the entire roof was $428,000 to $560,000. I'm looking at the public improvement fund here. Sorry, I thought this turned up a little bit better. At June 30, 2017, there was about $55,000 in the fund. We got the millages from property taxes, bike path, Outer County Road millage. We'll take some money out for the bike path bond, Tri-Cities connector bath, the boiler. We got some money for the sale of the old city hall. We're going to take some money out for the repair of 2nd Street. And we put some money back in the fund from Gracious Grounds, who bought this. We'll take some money out for the bridge. We're expecting about $500,000 in there at June 30th, 2018. Then we got the North Shore Road projects coming in, and brings it back down here to, at June 30th, 2020, about $160,000. And that's doing roof repairs about $150,000. We got that $150,000. We've got that number from a budget. We asked East Muskegon Roofing to give us a budget number back in 2016. Indicated in that budget was $137,000. You could do a couple add-ons for $4,000 or $5,000. I did talk to East Muskegon Roofing after we got this report. They indicated that if we went with this bid, it'd probably be an increase of probably 10%, but more likely 5% of what they quoted. The guy I talked to, he said he was up on top of the roof. He said he thought it was a solid roof. This roof repair is a second layer. It's not taking anything off. It's just adding a second layer, taking all the pea gravel off, adding another rubber membrane on there. He indicated that this roof was in pretty good shape. We had no major leaks in this roof. We don't have any, what he called, pressure from the inside to push up on the roof. He thought it was, his quote, would do what we wanted to do and keep the roof dry, or the building dry.
Muskegon, even if you upped it by 10%, you'd still be under that 188.
Yes.
Question, Craig, now that is stripping all the gravel off, but not going down to the decking. Okay, what about repair of the decking? We had a report where some of the decking is rotted. Does that include repairing that?
Up in there, there's some insulation that would be the decking and time materials at $10 a square foot.
Ballpark, I'm assuming you read this entire...
Twice.
Yeah, I read it twice. Makes some sense to me.
But Muskegon Roofing hasn't seen this.
Oh, he has that. I indicated that we had a roof consultant come up there and he looked at it, and we found some saturation areas and some stuff that were missing and needed repair. And he indicated that putting a new roof on there with the condition that he saw it in 2016, that a new roof was going to last the 20 or 25 years. After the 20, 25 years off, you have the option of taking 2 layers off and re-roofing, or taking that last layer off and putting the second layer on again.
Yeah. Could you set up a meeting with East Muskegon and have them go through this, or give them a copy of this report with all the problem areas, as you know, the ultraviolet or whatever that they did, and request a updated bid on that? Because my feeling is if we can get this done for 200, even 240,000 with the repairs that are needed, as opposed to 400 or 500,000, that would be a much better way to go. And we have that much available between the sale of the city hall, the sale of this property, and we would end up, what, about 60 grand out of general fund. Right, so that's a situation we can do, but we need a more firm quote from East Muskegon.
I can do that. One caveat I want to just talk about it for a second here is when they were up there on the roof and they saw that, there's section C. This is where the north entrance is, and right in that area is where the boiler room was. And this original building, when they had the boiler, it was oil fed or coal fed or something. So there's a chimney up there.
Right.
And all that brick is coming loose and falling apart. So the recommendation from this book is that that chimney be taken down. I'm not sure that East Muskegon Roofing would have that in their pricing.
Right, but that's what I'm saying, we need to update that with the recommendation they take that down to roof level and roof over it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? We know from this report the repairs that need to be made in the areas that are weak and that are leaking and moisture, whatever. I forget what they got, the ultraviolet? Thermal imaging. So we know where the problems are now.
Now we do.
So I would suggest that we don't need this guy to oversee the project at this point, because we know all the issues, we know all the problems are. We can have a bid presented to us with repairs of the underlying structure without getting this engineer back involved for about 15, 20 grand. Just throwing that out there. I'm real tired of these engineering fees all the time.
Well, and this fellow's been compensated, correct, for this report?
Mm-hmm.
So this report is our property now. So we can take it to anywhere to get a bid. Say, this is where problems are, this is what needs to be done, and this is what you're bidding. Right.
Consultant fee to oversee the project was another $5,000, as I recall.
I thought it was a bit more than that, but you could be right.
Well, considering the extent of information that we got to educate ourselves, I think it was money well spent. So.
Definitely.
I went through this word, twice, and it kind of makes sense to me that we don't need him involved anymore.
Oh, I know. There's a lot of pictures in here.
Give it back so that you can
Well,
Give it to
you
the
wanna
bidders.
give it to the parties that need
I
to
want to
keep
hang
it.
on to this so I know when they do it right. I have a ladder.
Me and
Staff
Mike are
has
going.
direction of where to move next.
And
Okay, yes.
what type of warranty are we gonna be looking for? I didn't see what the warranty that they were offering there.
You said 20 to 25 years?
I believe that there's an upcharge for a 20-year from 15 to 20.
Yeah, it was like $1,500 or something, which I find incredible.
I don't find it incredible. It's a 20-year roof. What they?
$1,500. That's 2 years ago.
Well, even if it's $3,000 for an additional 5-year warranty, it's money well spent.
Yep.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I believe all the roofing comes with 20-year, but they put 15 on so they don't have to come back in 17, you know.
And there's a deduct on, the last item is a deduct for insulation. We didn't want to do some certain type of insulation.
This is basically stripping off the stone, roofing over the existing roof minus the stone, correct? And then upcharge of these numbers to go from a 10-year, I can't read it, Craig, is it? So to go from the thicker membrane is $3,800, and for an extended 20-year warranty is another $1,500. So my position would be that we go with a thicker roof and the 20-year warranty.
But that will be on this.
Well, Craig's gonna be talking to him, and, you know, we need to specify, okay, this is what we're looking for. Right.
Any other comments or questions?
No.
Okay. Alrighty. Moving on to our next work session, 7E, work session 2018-2019 budget. Craig?
Budget. slide here shows the taxable increase to the city. It went up $100 to $180,000, $180 million, which is a 5% increase in our taxable value. The right column is the SEV for the city. It had a little over about a $2 million increase, had a 1.7% increase over 2017. Based on the values for 2018, next fiscal year, we're going to lose the sand mining property at $2 million, about $18,000 worth of city revenue. The Gateway Church property will come off the tax rolls. That's a $272,000 value right now, and the city revenue about $2,400. This slide shows that the state revenue we're expecting for the next fiscal year is going to remain flat, about $240,000, $250,000. Building permits in 2017 we had 11. Year before 12, 15 we had 11. In 2018 we've had one building permit so far for new construction. This shows the calculation of what we call the millage reduction fraction. This is done for every community. Just shows that our millage reduction fraction here for 2018 is less than 1, so our millage will be reduced. Plugging that in, the city charter authorizes could be that we could levy 11 mills, and over the years, due to the heavy rollback in Proposal A, the millage has been reduced. This column here shows the millage reduction fraction. When it's a 1, it doesn't get reduced, it's the same amount. Here it was 9.98, which shows it went from 8.56 to 8.46. But you can see for the 10 years from 2005 to 2015, we levied 8.3576 mills, and that left 0.005 mills available that we could have levied, but we didn't in 2016. 2016, we had the millage reduction fraction came at 0.9829. Apply that to the maximum millage that we could have levied, brings us down to 8.2196. That's the maximum we could have levied, so that's what we did levy. As you can see, that's less than what we've levied the previous 10 years. Again, 17 and 18, we had a millage reduction fraction. So based on the millage reduction fraction for 2018, last year the maximum we could levy is 8.12. This year, with the maximum millage reduction fraction, we can levy 8.0323. So this is just kind of a chart showing that we could have levied levy mills with the city charter, but with the Headley Amendment, what it does to our millage over the years, it just keeps reducing and reducing it. And one of these days, we're going to have to go to the voters and ask for a Headley roll-up. And just as a side point, when we had the recession here in these years here where we were at 1, actually the millage reduction fraction was greater than 1, but based on law, we couldn't roll our millage up. It had to stay flat, which is something we've talked to our legislators about, being able to do that, and they just haven't changed the laws yet. So if we would have levied 8.3576 based on the millage, our taxable value for 2018, we would have had an increase of about $58,000 in city revenue. Based on last year's millage and this year's millage, which is 0.087 mills less, we'll still have an increase of about $15,800 in city revenue. So 2018, $180 million. That's an $8.6 million increase in taxable value of 5%. Millage that the city will levy is 8.98. Total city revenue of $1.6 million. Revenue increase over the year from last year is 3.89%. Highlights from our upcoming budget. We're about $517,000 for the police department. Earlier this year, we talked to the city council about including a $10,000 payment to the police pension for this fiscal year and next fiscal year. That number includes that. Fire department budget is about $165,000. Act 51 revenue, that's gas and weight tax that the city gets. About 60% of that goes into the major street funds. The rest goes into the local street fund. We're proposing a wage increase for employees at 2.5%. In the past, the wage increase for the city employees has been close to the CPI. The CPI this year was 2.1%. We're proposing a wage increase of 2.5. Building and electrical inspector, it's a contracted position at this time. Based on some things that happened over the year, the city attorney is recommending that he become an employee of the city, protected more or less under the city's insurance program. So we're going to be changing our agreement with the building electrical inspector from a contractor to an employee this year, fiscal year. It really should have no effect on the city budget. He gets paid on the number of inspections he does. He gets the inspection fee. We're going to have a contract agreement with him that he'll still get that money, but in his agreement right now, he gets $400 or $500 a year for going to electrical and building conferences. Instead of calling it training money, it's going to be his wages for the upcoming year. So it really shouldn't have no impact on the city budget.
Quick question, Craig. So he's going to be a city employee at $400 a year plus the inspection fees.
Probably $1,000 or $1,200, $100 a month in wages.
Which is an increase or decrease of what he gets now?
It's about the same. He's allowed $400 or $500 to go to conferences for building and $400 or $500 to go to electrical.
Okay, how does that affect our mechanical?
I talked to the mechanical plumbing inspector. He does not want to do that at this time. He set up more of a company, and he's satisfied with the way he's set up.
So he'll still be an at-will employee?
He'll be a contract employee with the city.
Yeah, okay. So the major reason we're doing this is to give George a level of protection under our liability policy?
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Act 152 of 2011 dictates the amount an employer can pay for medical insurance for the employees. So you have three options under that act. Or you can be below the hard cap. The city or municipality can opt out of this requirement by resolution, or they can require that all employees pay 20% of the premium, with the employer paying the 80%. For 2018, the maximum number that we can pay for single family or single coverage is $6,500. A double coverage $13,700, and the family is $17,892. Doing the calculations, we have 8 full-time employees, 6 employees take health coverage, 2 opt out. The 2 opt out get half of the premium, and the employer keeps the other half. So doing the calculations, we got our official increase for our health insurance premium. Our health insurance premium will go up 2.5% for the calendar fiscal year. So this is what it was in 17-18. This is what's going to be in 2019. Annual amount of employee right now, an employer pays 15% of their premium, cost to the city. We do all the calculations. Our hard cap is the maximum amount the employer can pay, $90,600. We're at $94,647, so we're $3,900 over the hard cap. This is a time for a city council discussion on whether city council wants to opt out, be below the hard cap, opt out, or require the employees to go to 80-20 on the health insurance premium.
Yes, we've opted out, correct?
That's correct. About the last 4 or 5 years.
Well, I hate taking money from out of the employee's pocket. If we go to 80-20, their copay is going to increase, correct?
Their cost premium will increase 5%, yeah.
So if we do the opt-out, the program will remain as it is?
Yes. Yes.
Do you need some direction now?
Look for direction from city council. If the city council wants to opt out, we'll prepare a resolution for city council to consider at the next meeting.
What are your other thoughts on this?
So should we discuss that right now?
Please.
After, okay.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay.
Good.
Thank you. A couple of increases in our fees. Our request for a ZBA variance is currently $100. We're proposing to go up to $150. One of the reasons is the cost of publish a legal ad is about $105. And then we add on mailing to all the property owners within 300 feet of their variance request. So at $100, we're losing money. I think we raise up to $150, we'll be close to breaking even. A field permit, currently it's $100. If it's greater than 400 cubic yards, it goes to the Planning Commission for their review. If it's less than 400 cubic yards, it's approved administratively. With very few vacant parcels left in the city, a number of people want to bring fill in to be able to build on these lots. So they're getting a little more complex. So these fill permits really need to go to the engineer to make sure that everything's covered and we're not affecting neighboring properties. So instead of the $100, we're proposing for greater than 400 cubic yards to go to, when it goes to Planning Commission, be $500, less than 400 cubic, $250. The driveway goes to the Planning Commission if they want to do something different than what's allowed by the zoning ordinance. Currently, it's $100. There's no specifications on the zoning ordinance that we have to notify the neighboring properties. As a courtesy, the city has done that. We do like a public hearing for a variance. So we notify all the property owners that are 300 feet, and then we do a mailing. Again, we're up to here at the 105 for the legal ads. So if we go up to 150, it would be about break even with the city.
Good question, Craig. Typically, a driveway you can approve administratively, but doesn't have to go to planning or zoning?
If it meets the zoning ordinance, it can be approved administratively. If there's a deviation, then what's allowed, then it has to go to the Planning Commission.
So can we?
These driveway requests would only be for ones that need a deviation.
Okay, so if I come to you and I want a permit for a driveway, everything, I have all the clearances, variances, I don't need any variance or anything, I don't have to pay any of that fee, correct?
And it's 3 feet from the property line, it's no wider than 25 feet, and meets all the requirements, criteria of the zoning ordinance, you're good to go.
Okay, without the fees?
That's correct.
So this would only be if they need a variance?
That's correct.
Okay, all right, thank you. Thanks for clearing that up.
Is there any question on the proposed increase in fees? Other highlights from the city, budget coming up. We put some money in there to pave the apron in front of the salt barn at the garage. Parking area, Sunnyside Park, right now it's a gravel area. When the guys plow, consequently gravel gets in the grass and they spend hours breaking the gravel out of the grass. And someday we'd like to do something here with parking at City Hall, either putting some more parking spaces on the north side of the building or doing something where we can build a ramp up into where the basketball poles are and get some overflow parking in there. Telephones are getting old. They're probably, what, 20 years old? We want to get those replaced. Copier, last guy that was in and worked on it, so he's holding it together by Band-Aids. So we want to get that
They
replaced.
said like 4 years ago?
2012.
Oh, okay.
Last year, 2 years, we've been putting an extra $2,000 a month into the MERS, which is the employee pension plan. Proposing to keep that. $15,000 for payroll software. Right now, we use a company called ADP for our payroll. They do a great job. You call in, they take care of your taxes. You don't have to worry about it. Getting the payroll software, we've talked about a little bit about it. One of the advantages of having that would be that the guys, when they do their timesheets, it might be a little more accurate, charge in their time to the appropriate fund and to the appropriate equipment. I don't think it's a real big issue. We just put it in there. That could go either way, whether we do move on that or not. Again, we put some money in for the roof. The Coast Guard Park shelter needs to be a new roof and it needs to be painted. And put some money in there for the fire barn play equipment match. There's still hope that the city is going to be able to get the Imagination Station from Grand Haven moved over into here. Had a conversation with somebody Friday. It's looking like a real good possibility that that's going to happen. We'll get some more definite answers here in the real near future. Once we get that definite answer, it's going to be a go. We're going to have to do some logistics and how that's going to get over here and how it's going to be put together and where it's going to go. I'm sorry?
Scouts, Eagle Scouts, there we go.
We have Boy
Boy
Scouts.
Scouts, that'd be great. One nail at a time.
They can take it down, bring it over.
Well, Shape Corporation has a volunteer program.
Right,
and we've already kind of plugged in that they'd be willing to bring over all the equipment for us and maybe help take it down over there. And Boy Scouts would be great to help put together.
Sign. Okay.
Better to have it designed.
Take
and
pictures
built.
ahead of time so it looks the same over here as
No,
over
no, we
there.
need to, well, we need our own look.
I'm all for it.
We need our own look. Okay.
We're into the second year of our SAW grant. We estimate that we're going to spend $400,000 of that grant money this year. So we got $150,000 budgeted for stormwater. 50% of that goes to major and locals, and $250,000 to inspect our wastewater system. So the SAW grant will get revenue of $360,000. Out of that $400,000, our local match will be $40,000. So with the SAW grant of $360,000, we have shown up as revenue in our major and local and sewer fund, and we have the local match budgeted for expenses in those funds as well. Late last year, we had a water asset management plan put together. Some of the things that they thought we should be looking at in 2018 was a valve project on Van Wagner Road. Right now, there's a water main that goes underneath the highway. It's not isolated. There's no valves on either side. There's a break. You can't shut it off. We want to put a valve on the east and the west side of that water main, so if something happens, we can shut it off. And then the Willow Drive water main replacement, about $100,000. To do those projects in the water asset management plan, and for the next 10 years, they indicated that we should be increasing our water rate at 2% to pay for these projects. There's $175,000 in capital improvement projects that they lined up for us. Here you see they have none really that is major. So also in the water funnel, we have 2 plastic water pipes that need to be replaced. We're working to replace all of our Traverse City hydrants with something a little more modern. Continue with our water meter replacement, which is really going good. That's one of the best investments the city has done, is doing that water meter replacement where guys can read them remotely. Just saves a lot of time and the accuracy. But we'll keep doing that. There's probably about 50 water meters that haven't been replaced with radio meters. Most of those are like 4-inch meters. We have a 4-inch meter in the city hall. We probably won't replace it as long as it's working.
That left. I mean, quite. It seems like a never-ending pit. You know, it seems like every budget. You know, what do
we didn't get any replaced this year. We did some in 2016 when we did the North Shore Road project. When the street was open, we replaced all those hydrants. We're going to replace the hydrants on North Shore Drive when we open that street up. That's basically when the big time when we get a chunk of them done.
So we don't normally replace them onesie twosies, like the one in front of my house. You don't come replace that. Well, I mean, when the water or the hydrant replacement, as we improve a street, is when they get replaced, correct? Not, they don't just go around the city and pick one and do it. Okay, thanks for clarifying that.
This is in 16-17, last fiscal year, what we spend for water. We bought 126 million gallons of water. Cost the city about $117,000. For the sanitary sewer, we sent about 80 million gallons over to the wastewater treatment plant. Our cost about $168,000. That's not all treatment. The treatments, that number there, we pay money for our pump station maintenance. The force main, the city has been in the village and Spring Lake Township have been sending money away since June of 2012 for the force main replacement underneath the Grand River. Plant modification, each community pays a certain amount based on how much they send over for treatment, and it goes into a plant modification fund over at the wastewater treatment plant for improvements over there. Upcoming improvements for the city, we got the Spring Lake Force Main, our cost about $881,000. the headworks, the stuff that's gonna be done over at the wastewater treatment plant, and the lift stations at $1.4 million, the $2.64 million, pay back about $3.7 million with interest. To do that, it's going to be an increase in there's a typo there. There should be $36.75 a quarter for the rate to serve charge, a 4% increase in the sewer rate. We're proposing no increase in the water rate to serve charge or the water rate. That would be a typical increase to an average customer of $37.73 per quarter, or $150.92 a year, a 20% increase over last year.
Splitting that out, so much for each bond payment, or, you know, I'm at a loss here, but so much for the bond payment for the force main, so much for. Right, so this, don't I recall that we kind of voted on this, and this is what we wanted to do, or is that not come up for a vote yet? Okay, okay, but it will reflect it on the water bill? Okay, thank you.
Along with that too, there was room, you thought, to put on that monthly payments can be made to the city, or weekly, or something? Okay, okay, thank you.
I thought on the previous slide you were looking at a 2% increase for water.
That was recommended from the water asset management plan.
Okay.
We're still doing pretty well in our water fund, so yeah. And I didn't want to increase the water rate anymore with the increase we already have on the sanitary sewer. So this increase in the rate to serve charge for the quarterly will pay for the debt service on those new improvements. We should be sitting pretty good. The only caveat is we're working on the SAW grant. We're not sure what they're going to find, if there's going to be anything that needs to be addressed by what they do on their SAW grant, on their inspections. So we'll
Ballpark, what's our fund balance in that sewer fund if they find something that we have to work with right now? So it'd have to be a pretty major repair to find something majorly wrong. Okay, so are you pretty comfortable with that at this point? I just love it when you squirm. You're like an ant on a hot plate.
No commitment.
We're hoping.
Not enough information yet.
So in that previous 2 slides back, there was a column for plant modification fund. These are the improvements that are going on over at the wastewater treatment plant, the headworks, sludge pumps, and so forth. The plant modification fund is going to pay for cash for number 5 and number 7. So, you know, the communities have been doing some things to put some money away so that our increases aren't so large. But, you know, you get to these numbers and it just, 300,000, 800,000, it's just hard to save that money up and not have to bond for these projects. And like I mentioned earlier, the city has been sending away money since June 12th for this force main, you know, about $25,000 a year. And the communities have as well. Spring Lakes Village and Spring Lake Township, and those 3 communities on the North Bank are paying for that force main. The goal was, when we started that in 2012, that we would save up for 10 or 11 years and have almost half or better of the cost of that replacement of the force main. With that leak last year, it's in the D&Q being involved, we're expediting that project. So instead of paying or bonding for 50% of the project, we're bonding for a little bit more than what we wanted to. Some of the capital improvements, or the dump truck, it's not going to get paid for this fiscal year, so we got to carry that over. We're in the rotation to get another pickup this year, riding lawnmower, a 1-ton spreader. We have the 1-ton pickup truck. We have a small spreader on it now. Just something that when they do an intersection, they don't have to go back to the garage to fill up. They can do a little more of the city. In case our big spreader ever went down, we would just be able to do some kind of maintenance on the streets to keep them safe. Portable generator, an air compressor for the garage. Resurfaced the Fire Barn Park basketball and tennis courts. They were resurfaced a few years back. They're starting to show cracks again. Public Works Department thinks they need to be taken out and put back in. That's about $50,000. So they want to do the basketball at the Fire Barn and at Coast Guard Park. We thought we'd probably try to do one per year. And the Fire Barn is the worst, so that's why we're attacking that one first. Public Improvement Fund, we went through this one when we did the roof. About $160,000 on June 20th. What we're proposing. Once we get through this North Shore Road project, we got to start working on some local streets. So we'll do our best to play a little catch up once we get done with the North Shore Road project and hit some of these major streets and local streets that need to be some work. Carmen Drive is really getting bad, and so is Dogwood Drive.
The North Shore project is in the 18-19 budget year. So then the 19-20 budget year, we're out of that totally. As far as that's all paid for, done with. Street projects other than North Shore for the next 2 years, 2 budget years. Okay. Just so I know what to tell people when they scream at me. I am. Pat screams at me every time I see him. Unfortunately, the part that's a joint project has been redone. It's good.
Vehicle Replacement Fund, we're showing that we about $300,000 in there in June 30th, 2017. Time we do the pickup truck, about $245,000 at June 30th, 2018. Find the lawnmower, the dump truck again. I'm not sure we're going to spend that this year. It's probably going to be carried over. Sheriff police car, about $203,000. Pickup, Kubota, hot patcher, police car again. As you see, it's starting to whittle down here a little bit, and that expires in 2021. So we're gonna have to get busy and
Craig, quick question. The fire department, or the fire truck has been tested and extended till 2028, as I recall. Is that correct?
The mechanic said that as long as they can get the parts from them, they're fine. Like I said, the oldest one, the engine 721, I think is
personal check to the city for $2 million, so this all looks a lot better.
Go ahead, Mike. You're retired.
Hey, I'm using that
I
money.
saw the chief's request here for turnout gear and everything else. Is that all included in
Yes, sir. Yes.
everything he's requesting?
In Mike's, yeah.
Okay.
That was, his total budget was 165,000, which included all that.
A lot of info.
Any questions regarding the budget?
Nope.
Of course, but we can bring it up at the next meeting if we have some questions. I did not get time to digest this. I digested the book.
Does anybody want a copy of this PowerPoint presentation?
Okay, I guess
Can you
what,
email it to us all?
Sure can.
don't bother, I don't read it anyway. My computer's broke again, so.
Did you have a question?
Covers all the highlights. The PowerPoint will cover all the highlights.
Did you have a further
Yep,
question?
what are we doing to fund the bridge?
You got the 30,000 for the public improvement, 30,000 for this major street being reserved this fiscal year, and the same for next year.
Okay, and that's designated for the bridge.
That's correct.
You do realize we're only, 14 million short.
Well, I've talked to,
Always the pessimist.
I know.
I talked to the engineer, and we're kind of talking about is getting a quote to do some engineering work, preliminary engineering work, so we can set a little money aside and pay for a little engineering work to get things started drawn on paper and pay for that as an expense during that fiscal year. At least.
Question I would have there is they're changing the rules and regulations and the specifications. We're gonna throw a bunch of money out there and it may not even be applicable when we get money to do the bridge.
Survey and make sure we got the right, everything lined up, so once we get the word to go, if we ever get grant money, we can start moving as fast as we can.
Are we gonna have a report from that engineer shortly?
Yeah,
On the condition of the bridge?
I just got a copy Friday, so it'll be in your packet this week.
So it'll be at the next meeting.
You want it here?
I,
Or you want to read the report first? It's
The report
pretty
is in this
self-explanatory.
well, does anybody here understand what that report says?
We haven't looked at it. We're not gonna get it until,
We didn't understand what the last one said.
but we have a time to.
An idea.
Do you feel she should be here?
New in there that we haven't seen before. The surface is deteriorating. It's, water weep, the membrane's shot, water's dripping through it. Nothing really new in there.
She hasn't given us a.
She downgraded it from a 5 to a 4 in certain spots.
Well, what I'm thinking is has she yet to give us a time frame? Last time she was here, she gave us a time frame, as I recall, 2 to 3 years to close the northbound lane, possibly 4 or 5 years to close the entire bridge. Don't hold me to exact. There's something of that nature. The northbound lane, she felt we would have to close, run a traffic light, two-way traffic on the southbound lane.
Someday. In the report, I read over the weekend, she indicated if something happens, you can put a steel plate in or something. I'm not sure how that works. I'll check with her schedule and see if she's available next meeting.
Well, I don't necessarily need her at the next meeting, but I think once we digest the report, to the limit, to our ability, which is pretty limited, then if we have questions, we can address them to you and she can either come or address the questions.
But you'll have the report this week, so you'll have a week to read it before the next meeting, so I'll check with her schedule to see what, wouldn't hurt to have her here.
Well, I read that whole underwater survey thing 5 times, and at the end, it was a bunch of gobbledygook to me, and
Yeah.
the bottom line is it has to be changed. They didn't say that. They said this is this, this is this, this is this, but no, there was no definitive answer. Well, yeah.
That's what it is.
No, but you just don't see any hard definitive recommendations. Do this.
Well,
Here's
yeah.
the timeline.
Well, as you
Weight
read-
restriction, lane closure.
Well, as I read through the underwater survey, they said, well, there's some scouring here, and there's a log here, and there's
Yeah.
something here, but they didn't actually say, can we build any structure on the underwater? Well, the bottom line is we can't. That's what the consensus was when I nailed you on it, correct?
The concern is we put a new bridge on top of old piers. The piers are not going to last as long as a new bridge.
Right. And their recommendation was that to replace all the piers also.
Right, total replacement.
After read, well,
Yeah, if it's.
well, if it's not necessary. But the reading that report, there's no way of knowing if it was necessary or not until you actually stuck your pitchfork in her toe and said, hey, yeah, okay, now we know we have to do the entire structure, not just a deck.
So look forward to reading that next week then.
Okay, we'll read it, and if we have questions.
On my deck in the sunshine.
Okay.
That's only released to council at this time.
Okay.
It's a public document, though. If someone wants it, they can have it.
Also,
Sure.
Down to public comments. Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm David Ziegler, 17574 Hiawatha. Two things. I'd like to remind you that my hearing is not as great as it once was, and if you could kindly speak into your microphones, it would be helpful to me. But what I want to know is if it's possible for the policy to be reconsidered about brush pickup. I was thankful that the brush was picked up promptly in April, and of course 2 days later we had a minor windstorm came through and had to pick up a lot of other brush and put it beside my house. And I do see other brush out around the city. People put it out, and I'm wondering if it could be picked up every month rather than every 2 months. We did improve it. I think we went from every third month to every other month this year, but just I don't know if that's a huge burden on the city workers or not, but if it's not, I'm wondering if that could be reconsidered. Thank you.
City does, the DPW does go out generally like after a storm like the one that we had, not this past one, but one last fall, and if they see a need, then they assist and pick up and take care of things.
Typically, if there's a major storm, wind damage, the DPW will go around the city and pick up any damage from that storm.
From this, okay.
And if we miss a spot, people can call in City Hall, and we'll make sure we get that address. But they try to do their best to get around to the whole city and pick up damage from a storm.
To city manager's report.
Report?
Okay, council members, we're going to start down at this end. Councilmember Carlson, I know. That will always resonate with me, and I apologize.
The only thing I have to comment on is Kitchell Lindquist Dune Preserve. We had an Eagle Scout that just finished a project out there with some benches for his Eagle Scout project. And we are hoping at tomorrow night's meeting that we are going to have recommendations for an intern or two for the summer months.
Had those in the past.
Yes.
It's always been a success.
Yep.
Councilmember Twa.
No report.
Councilmember DeWitt.
Mr. Bessinger, this House 18840 Piney Point, any update on that? We turned it over to Brooke.
City attorney did send them a letter regarding the agreement, and last I talked to Brooke, it got bounced back, and we resent it. So we're still working on that issue. And a couple weeks ago, or last week, in my report indicated that we had an issue with Michigan Gas out there. Today, we did receive payment from that property owner for that invoice, so we're squared up there.
Okay, sorry. The other question is the AT&T sewer thing. What's the status of that? We were suing them, or they were suing us, or?
No, talking to Brooke, he indicated that he's still having conversations, he's still hopeful. He doesn't want to go to a suit as long as they're talking back and forth to each other, so he has it on his agenda and they're having conversations, so that's where it's at this time.
Conversations aren't a check.
I hear you.
Okay, I guess that's all I got.
Last month I attended a economic summit in Muskegon. There was a bunch of elected officials there, mainly Muskegon County, but I represented the city of Ferrysburg at that event. But it was pretty interesting. They went through a lot of information. There was a gentleman from the Government Affairs Committee and Public Policy from the state of Michigan, and they just talked about Michigan's economic priorities. Course, improving, education K through 12, the roads, how to get back lost workers. It said that state of Michigan has the 9th oldest population in the United States. So, thought that was pretty interesting.
Councilmember O'Donnell.
Sorry, Mr. Twa.
For the first time, so I've elected no report.
Okay. Councilmember Kennedy.
She's got something to say.
I try. Attended the Freedom Boat Works, the new business that's in Ferrysburg. Keenan Marina redid their clubhouse. If you ever get a chance, go see it. It is so pretty. I mean, what it was from a few months ago to what they did now, it's really nice. So I'm really hoping that the new owners and as well as this new business is successful. He did call me today and thank me for coming out. I think it's a good idea for people that don't want the responsibility of a boat. You join this club and you can have a fleet of boats. You can say, oh, I got a fleet of boats. So that was neat. I did attend the Ferrysburg garage sales. That was a lot of fun. I like doing that every year and just getting in touch with the citizens of Ferrysburg. That was fun. And I really hope that this Imagination Station gets pulled off and that we can get our Boy Scouts to be a part of that. I think that's a good thing to do all the way around. End of report.
Okay. I just had a couple thank yous. The first one goes out to Ferrysburg Fire Department, Grand Haven, Spring Lake, and Crackery. Their departments for their quick response to the fire that was out on North Shore Estates and saving the home. It was a pretty active fire that was going on there. The second thing, the many residents, I too participated with the Trash to Treasure, and it was great to see the participation within the city, but also the guests that came into the city, and speaking with many of them. And then also the thank you to the Watermark Church for, again, they did the pit stop out front, and it was great to have them involved. The one last thing, it happened late Saturday afternoon. A couple residents contacted in regards to a tree that had fallen on a private street, and Arlene and Dwayne DeYoung were very active in helping remove that on this private street. So during the night, because it's so wooded, that nobody would get injured back there. So anyways, a big thank you to them. Remember, Election Day is tomorrow. Get out and vote. So that's it.
Motion adjourned.
So moved.
It's canceled, yeah.
It was canceled.
Debbie sales canceled.
Yeah, bummer.
Lack of interest.
It was my
I
pleasure.
don't think it was on there, just the school millage. Renewal of the school.
And I'm gonna walk out of here with bruises on my
I think
legs.
that was it.